and I'm joined by Terence Simbi, the author of the book, Zimbabwe, Installing a Democratic State. How are you, sir?
Yes, how are you, Mr. Gambakwe?
Very well. And today we're going straight into the topic. Did you hear about the recall of the ZANU-PF Member of Parliament, Kilazivu?
Yes, I heard of it, the recall of Kilazivu. And the issues there were that he was trying to initiate a dialogue between the wife of the president and the leader of MDCT. So these were the official stated reasons why he was expelled first from ZANU-PF, then he was recalled from Parliament.
Okay. What are your opinions on this recall?
Well, this recall goes to show the issue of how democracy in itself is not being understood in Zimbabwe. And it goes on to show that due to this provision of the recall provision, which is in our constitution, it has led our communities not to engage in conversations which help the communities themselves, rather than we are now concentrating on the top positions, rather than having communities which respond to the wishes of constituency members. So recall provisions are very much undemocratic in understanding the flow of democracy.
Okay, so I want us to start at the beginning. There's been a lot of people that were recalled in 2020.
Yes.
Can you walk us through from January maybe, which people have been recalled in Zimbabwe?
Maybe before I look into that, maybe let me first of all maybe start to explain why we have MPs and why this recall is these recalls are not in line with the democracy in itself. Because let me now take you back to define democracy and the origins of democracy in itself as a governance system. So democracy originated in Greece, in a state called Athens. So it was really trying to say that we are creating a governance system where all the people in that polis called Greece would equally participate in the governance of that state. So every male citizen was given a right to vote in each and every governmental issue. So what happens is, if there's an issue like we are trying to raise taxes, we are trying to declare war with other nations, we are trying to create trade partners, we are trying to create laws about the happenings of that state, every male citizen in that Greece would have an equal opportunity to participate in governance. So this is the democratic definition this is the definition of democracy, where everyone would have an equal platform. Everyone was given the right to if he wanted to address or even petition the government on anything. There were procedures where there was no one with an upper hand on another person. So we moved on now to a larger population, where democracy now started in these modern times in the United States of America. Because now it was a larger population, it was a larger country. They created now what we call representatives. So these representatives in America, they call them congressmen, and they represent a particular area. So when the government is operating or when decisions are being made, those representatives must vote in governmental issues according to the wishes of the areas they represent. So there should be a direct relation between a congressman and in America they call them states, and the states which they represent. So whatever the people in those states want must be done through the representatives. So if they are voting on government spending, if they are voting on tax issues, they should mirror in the wishes and wants of those people who are in the states. So this is democracy now, where in the modern sense, the MPs in our own parliament must be very much aligned to the interest of the communities they represent, of the constituencies they represent. So whatever they do must be the wishes and desires of the people in the constituents themselves. So when they go to parliament, they must be representing the interests of the communities they are representing. So we have a problem now here, because in the democracy which was created in America, it was created without political parties. Political parties then emerged now. But the problem with political parties and the representatives, the MPs we have now, is that political parties have national interest to enter into cabinet, to enter into decision-making rules, where now there's now a clash now between the interest of the communities, the MPs which represent, where killers who represent Chief. So when he goes to parliament, he's supposed to mirror in the views of Chief. But now, because there's now a national party which belongs to ZANU-PF now, which has national interest to control their interest in government, they now clash now with the interest of the community which he represents, which is Chief. So we are now having clashes now, that there is a national interest where the President Mnangagwa will be so much interested in retaining all the power. Then is now affecting now the operations of the interests and the wishes of the people in Chief. So this is how I can characterize the recall of Killer Zivu. Killer Zivu might be representing what is being said in Chief, because people in Chief might be moving away from the election which happened in 2020, and they want the president's wife and Nelson Chamisa, and even so the president, to be together in one decision-making rule. So this is what is representing the. So if it's now different from the desires of the central government, which is expressed through ZANU-PF and its leader ZANU-PF, then he gets a record for expressing the wishes of what the communities represent. So we have an issue now where all the records which have happened this year, they have been necessitated by the desire of the political party leaders trying to have their interests in government or gaining government positions, clashing with the local interests. So we can see the recalls in the MDC alliance even itself, where Nelson Chamisa recalled when he was still the leader of the MDC alliance, where he had control of MDC MPs and the councillors. And we can walk you even from last year. He recalled the Masvingo mayor. He wanted to expel also the Chegutu mayor. He wanted also to expel and recall the Victoria Falls mayor. But why is he trying to recall these guys? He's now concentrating now. He's now trying to invest into decisions which have been made in other areas. In areas which have the right to have their own governance system, which have the right to make their own decisions. Because he's saying now that the Masvingo mayor is aligning with the ZANU-PF and is refusing party directives. This is the reason which was given to the recall of the Masvingo mayor, which is very much wrong. Which is very much wrong in democracy, because democracy says that the people of that area in Masvingo are the ones who have the decision-making power. So some of the reasons are that the Victoria Falls, the mayor received the president when he came to which is not in line with the dispute which they are having at national level, where the MDC and ZANU-PF are having over the elections. So it's now the national interest of the party are now affecting the issues now, which have to do with the governance of the council of Victoria Falls, the council of Masvingo, the council of Chegutu, which is wrong, which is not democratic.
Okay, so I'm very happy with the description that you have given. The fact that when you recall someone from parliament,
yes,
you are now overriding the will of the local people in the constituents where they come from.
Yes.
Now, let's go to proportional representative MPs. Those are not voted by anybody. When they are recalled, the senators, the MPs, is that a problem?
Well, that now is not a problem now, because they are they are sent to parliament through a political party, through a closed list. That is not a problem because they are sent to parliament through a closed list. Before an election, there is a list which is submitted to the SEC on the proportional representatives according to alternating the male and female. Even the Senate itself, it's made out of proportional representatives. But it's different now from parliament where we have this, where we, as the people of the constituency, directly vote for a person. So as we can analyze now, even if we go to elected members, we see that there's a difference between the desired, because if you look at the election results this election, we can see that for the presidential election, the MDC scored more votes than the parliamentary election, which means people they would have preferred to be represented by Chamisa at presidential level, but they would have voted for ZANU-PF or any other candidate in the parliamentary election. The only party which was able to retain the same vote was ZANU-PF, which scored 2.4 million in the presidential election and 2.47 in the parliamentary, which means the same people who wanted representation in parliament wanted also to be represented by the same president, but which is not the same now with the opposition, because Nelson Chamisa got 2.1 but 1.6 in the parliamentary election. So it means that people might prefer to have a president from one party, but in parliament they might prefer to have representation from the other party, which makes the whole issue of recalling someone based on the issue of that he went to parliament due to a political party, which makes it fail in that sense. Now, the constitutional amendments which are being made now, they are now going to extend the proportional representation element of parliament, which was supposed to lapse in the 2023 election. We are not supposed to have proportional representatives there because mainly the proportional representatives are the women which are going to parliament based on quotas, because we say 60 women must be added on to the parliament. So this now goes to the issue of the constitutional amendments which are being made, that we are going to also extend this element of proportional representation. But I think when we have a parliament which is filled up with people who are proportionally representative, which do not tie in a certain constituents which really votes for them, we are creating problems in our governance systems because they are there on a party ticket rather than to represent the interests of communities. So which makes the whole fight between the control of them, like we see in the MDC, very much destructive to the democratic setup we have right now.
Okay, so I want to ask you a specific question.
Yes.
Are you saying Nelson Chamisa was also abusing the recall provision?
Yes, everyone is abusing the recall provision. Everyone in both ZANU-PF, both MDC, they are abusing the recall provision to elected members because they are infringing upon the wishes of the constituency members. And even the MPs themselves do not know their roles. The only MP, which I will give an example, who knows the procedures of being an MP, and it's a controversial example, it's Energy Mutodi. Because I'll give you an example of what he did when a certain Chinese company tried to invest in Dombosha West. There was a certain Chinese company which wanted to have a plant there to do with quarries. So the procedure which every MP must do, but when some investment is supposed to happen in that area, you must bring together everyone in that community for a meeting and decide on the issue, on its merit or not. So the Chinese company came in with their representative to that meeting. They proposed that with this investment, it's going to employ this amount of people in Goromonzi West. So the people of Goromonzi West denied. They said that this project will destroy their environment, will destroy the landscape of their heritage, cultural heritage, which is expressed in the hills, which are there in Goromon's West. So this is the procedure which every MP must do, rather than after the investment is made through cabinet, because right now the governance law says that the Minister of Energy or the Minister of the ministers, the presidents themselves, the president themselves is the one who issues mining licenses. So there's no consent which is going to so people in the communities must be given the floor to express their consent, rather than central government just coming in with these mining lists which they give to foreign companies, which do not take into account if they are beneficial to the community. So Energy Mutweni was the only member of parliament who knew what the procedures are. Because in other constitutions, we can give you an example of India. When you want to come as an investor in the mining sector, there is a procedure where there are supposed to be public hearings in communities. So in these public hearings, the case for or against is debated, and there's a threshold of this meeting where they say about 5% of members in that constituency must be able to give consent for that mining license to be issued. But in Zimbabwe, we have this situation where the cabinet or the president can just issue a mining license. Well, and I'll give you an example of what happened in Zhishawane, where we saw Vice President Constantino Chiwenga and the Minister of Mines and the Minister of Agriculture going to issue a mining license to a certain company there. Then after that, we saw people in Zhishawane demonstrating now. But there's no procedure where there's consent, where the MP is supposed to voice out the concerns which are there in the communities. So MPs are not doing their job as they should. They are not representing the interests of the communities they represent. Rather, they are representing defend Chamisa, defend Coupe, which is not in line with what they even went to Parliament to do.
Okay, so you picked on a very interesting MP who was also a minister or a deputy minister. What happened to Energy Mutweni? Was he recalled?
Currently, he's suspended from ZANU-PF. So he has not yet been recalled. Yes, he's still an MP, but he has not yet been recalled. But when you expelled now, if they write a letter to cabinet, if they write a letter to parliament, to the speaker, then they can record you.
Okay, why do you
think
that
law is...
Yes. Okay. Why do you think Kilaziv was recalled, fired, whereas Energy Mutweni was not recalled, but was fired from his job?
I don't know what they will do next now, because if they suspend you, or because that's the procedure which happened to even Kilaziv. He first of all started being suspended, then he got expelled, then recalled now. So I don't know what they will do in the future there. But this recall provision is very, 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 very dangerous to our democracy and our democratic setup.
Okay, now let's go to the solution. What do you think should be done to address this recall issue?
Well, myself, I had tried to file a constitutional application to say that this recall is not in line with the democratic principles. For I gave an affidavit in which in 2018 I wrote my first article, and it's even chapter 3 of my book, where I was saying that I was violated constitutionally, because when I vote myself, I understand the differences in functions in government. So when I vote myself, in that case, I voted in Noto, in the Ward 10 Council. I voted for Christopher Changwa, who was the ZANU-PF member. Then in the presidential election, I voted for Morgan Tsvangirai. the late Morgan Tsvangirai in the elections in 2013 election. But so I'm not a member of any party there. I'm just a rational voter who considers the person there. So this is my affidavit there. So when they had their internal fights in ZANU-PF, where Mchangwa was recalled because he was the one who started to question the former first lady when they had the case, when they had this case of the visa to the United States of America, where he questioned, he said the first lady does not warrant to have the president is the only one which can offer. So he was recalled for that reason. This was not in line with my political rights, because when I voted for in an election in 2018, I was supposed to be represented for the next 5 years by Comrade Mchangwa. And I'm not a member of ZANU-PF. And so ZANU-PF, if they have their own issues there, why should they infringe upon my political rights and infringe upon Section 67, where I'm assured by the Constitution to also make political rights? So political parties, because of their factional fights, they are now infringing upon my rights. So this is the constitutional appeal which I wanted to submit with the Constitutional Court, but because I'm not a lawyer, they refused my application. I went with my application to the human rights lawyers. They also said it's unstrategic. But we see that all the problems we are having as a country are emanating from this recall. We cannot have an elective Congress because of this recall. Because I can give you an example of the factional fights which happened in ZANU-PF. Because of the recall, Emmerson Mnangagwa was recalled by Mugabe there, which warranted greater constitutional violations in deployment of the national army without the commander-in-chief. Those are the events which happened in 2017. The army was deployed without the commander-in-chief, but by a command, which is a greater constitutional violation than this recall provision which we have. So because of this recall, whenever someone in a political party wants to be a leader or is running to be a leader, he then gets recalled and gets fired from the political party, which is not democratic, because at the moment we have not had any elective Congress where people have elected the top leaders in political parties, be it ZANU-PF, be it MDC. All the time before the elective Congress happens, those who are challenging to be the leaders are recalled. This is what happened to Emmerson Mnangagwa, which warranted the military coup. We can also give the example in the MDC alliance or MDC-T. When Morgan Tsvangirai lost the 2013 election, Tendai Biti tried to challenge him to an elective Congress. But before that elective Congress happened, Tendai Biti was fired from MDC. And then that's the events where he formed the PDP. The same issue with the recent issue in the MDC, Coupe versus Chamisa. Before an elective Congress happens, Coupe was already fired by Chamisa because he was recalled in 2018 April, before they could go for an elective Congress. Now that the Supreme Court has reset the time and has ordered that the MDC did not follow, they should have gone for an elective Congress, and they've given power to Coupe to organize that. Coupe has again fired Nelson Chamisa from that Congress. So we are having this recall dividing political parties rather than having them. In South Africa, they have elections as leaders. People like Jacob Zuma, all those guys, they have gone through elective congresses in their party in ANC. So in Zimbabwe, we have this excuse, even in the MDC alliance, that we will not go for an elective congress because ZANU-PF is trying to divide us before an election. Before an election, that was the reason which was given by Chamisa. After this election again, after the election of 2018, we still have the same issue, which is they are saying that they are trying to divide us as ZANU-PF. So they will never have an elective congress. But in other jurisdictions, they have solution to this issue, where people will now complain to say that this party is trying to influence the leadership. In America, they have the elective congresses happening on the same day. And that's the same even in France. they say all political parties should go to primary election at the same time. So no party will have an argument of saying that the other party is trying to influence the leadership of my part of our party, like we have in Zimbabwe, where both Chamisa and who always complain to say we are being infiltrated by ZANU. So the elective congresses must be done on the same day. This is a solution which I can propose to solve that. Elective congresses must be done constitutionally, that every party should have an elective congress on the same day, so that no party will complain to say we are being infiltrated by another political party.
Okay, so let's go to your constitutional court application.
Yes.
What were you arguing that they should do in that constitutional court application?
Yes, the draft order which I gave, it was to order that Section 129 is in violation with the liberty of an individual to make political choices freely. That is the first order. The second was to order the parliament to sit down and give the right to recall to the constituent members through a method which is reasonable. Those are the two drafts which I made. So I will explain about this second draft, where I'm saying the parliament must be ordered to give the right to recall to the constituents. And this is how they do in most jurisdictions, even in the UK themselves. The person who has the ultimate right to recall a member of parliament are the constituency members through a certain method they use. In UK, they say 10% of, if they sign 10% sign for a petition, they use a petition system to recall a member. So this will also help in the constituency members, also making the MPs accountable to them rather than the political party. So, okay. So this is the draft order which I placed in my constitutional application, which has not yet been filed, by the way.
Okay, so you want this to be filed, and I think you have explained why it's important. Yes. So if there is a lawyer who is watching, if they want to assist you, are you willing to work with them to file this at the Constitutional Court?
Yes, I will be willing to file to file this with the Constitutional Court. Yes.
Okay, excellent. So I'll put your number on the screen so that any lawyer who wants to contact you can do so, and you can file the court case. Now, I want us to see how we can modify. You have given two draft orders, right? The one was that the provision is not in line with the Constitution. The other one was that the local community should be the one that initiates the recall.
Yes, yes.
Now, my question is, how do you deal with the proportional representation? Obviously, you have to put it in that draft order also. Should it continue the way it is now, or what should happen?
Well, under the provisions of the Constitution, which is currently, proportional representatives were supposed to end them in 2023. They were not supposed to be proportional representatives then. But in light of the Constitution, which is now being amended now, maybe that's where we can. So in the initial, I had excluded it because I knew that the proportional representatives were going to lapse at the end of this parliament. So if now we are if the Constitution gets amended now, then we have to deal with some of the issues. But I'm against extending the quotas which are there, because we are just creating members who do not represent anyone, who represent the party interests rather than the communities. And our parliament, especially the National Assembly, because in when we talk of parliament, we are talking about two bodies, the National Assembly and the Senate. So the National Assembly That this is what I'm concentrating on, that the National Assembly should not be edited by political interest, should be direct, it should be aligned to the people themselves in the constituencies. Yes, in other branches of government, that's where we can have proportional representatives there, and we can have appointed members in cabinet, but the National Assembly should be exclusively voted for.
Okay, now
if
let's
they want
look
to
at
create quotas, if they want to create quotas to say women, political parties should do them themselves, not create a system where we have a National Assembly which is edited by a political party. Why are political parties not making those quotas in their primary elections to say that the seat will be contested by a woman? Why are political parties, why are they now going to the national? Because if we create a system where there are people who are there who do not answer directly to the constituencies, then we create a lot of problems in our governance there.
Okay, I get that point. Now let's go to the other point of mayors. The mayors are voted for almost by the group of councillors that belong to the MDC or to ZANU-PF. Should ZANU-PF not be able to recall their mayor? You
see, okay. Let me explain this with councils now. You see, when I was growing up, I remember my father going to meetings in our local areas where we would make decisions concerning our own local areas. But this was a time where there were no two major political parties. It was exclusively a one party state those times, because ZANU-PF was so dominant. But I still remember that the procedure of making decisions in our own areas, because I lived in Norton, and this was a place where those days it was still rural. So I still remember my father going to meetings as communities, discussing about security issues. If there were a lot of thieves in that area, the men in that area would meet and discuss on duties, and discuss about issues of water, discuss about this. This is the function of council now. So this is the relation which I'm trying to make. So council must represent the interests and the day-to-day running of activities which are done in the local areas. And these were the days, the long days, long ago. People in communities would meet to make decisions on their own and to assign responsibilities on their own. So now, due to this political party and recalls, what we are being forced to now is not to meet as communities. Because when we see, you're talking about the election of mayors, I'll give you an example of Masvingo itself. Masvingo, there were how many councillors? There were 7 MDC councillors and 3 ZANU-PF councillors. This is the setup of the councillor. This is the area. But this area of councillors is tasked to do with the running of what activities in that area. And the terrain there, it means that there are 3 ZANU-PF members and 7 MDC councillors. So to make decisions on certain issues, you have to have the consent of what? The majority. So it means sometimes you have to agree with what people from the opposition to make your council work. This is the same scenario even in Chegutu, where there is almost like an equal share between MDC and what? And ZANU-PF. So to make decisions, people in those areas have to meet and make decisions. So with this recall, what it is meaning is now we are being forced not to meet, because Nelson Chamisa and Emerson Mnangagwa don't want to meet there. Anyone who wants to make a decision where they have met as communities and they have seen the terrain in their community will be affected with a conflict which is happening in a higher place, rather than addressing the issues which are there in their localities. So this is how the recall and political parties has affected the running of issues which have to do with our local areas.
Okay, so this recall provision for councils, is it the same?
Yes, it's the same.
or is it sitting in the Urban Councils Act, or is it the same Electoral Act?
No, it's in the Constitution. It's section 328, which says the tenure of it says that the tenure of a councillor is subjected to the same conditions which are there in section 129. So it's in the same Constitution. When you go to provincial councils, when you are reading about provincial councils. So I forgot, but I think it's section 328, which says a tenure of a member of a council is terminated under the provisions of section 129. Okay.
Right, Mr. Terence Simbi, author of the book Zimbabwe Installing a Democratic State. Very interesting discussion. Is there anything else that you want to say before we close?
Well, that announcement that I've decided to put the book on gambaga.com so that people can download. If they have issues, they can pose questions. Because I've decided to make the book free, especially in this time where people might run to do changes to the government without. So I'll tell me changing labels of an empty bottle rather than labeling what's inside. So we can change leaders as much as we can, but if we don't agree on how are we going to relate as communities, we'll still come to the same issues. So I've decided to put the book on gambaga.com so anyone can download it and can read it and can analyze it. How I've analyzed our governance systems and some of the recommendations which I've made to change our governance system. So that's why.
Thank you very much, Mr. Terence Simbi, for giving access to your book. I'm also going to distribute it through all our other channels, and I would like us to discuss the book in detail, maybe once a week, so that people can understand what you're saying about in that book. Right, thank you very much, Mr. Simbi, and we'll meet again next week.
Thank you.
Right.